What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Hour Pass podcast with me, Suddy. This is Shyam, and I'm here for another episode of the Euro 2021. Last 16, Shyam. The first 4 games have been played. Um, Crazy result last night. We'll kind of focus on what happened last night with Czech Republic kicking out Netherlands, which is a bit unsurprising for us, but we just didn't think Czech Republic would do it. Um, with the man sent off, it was a ridiculous handball by the late. And then later on the night, we had Portugal take on Belgium, and did not fail to deliver, man. It was so good, such a good game. What's his name? Torgan Hazard, little Hazard scoring the winner. Portugal coming back later on, they could have got 2 or 3 goals. They had a few chances, just couldn't finish it. But this is the nature of the game, and when you're two giants playing like that, they're going to cancel each other out. It's just a shame it's so early on. Um, my question to you is: Belgium surely going in big favourites now. It's a big win for them. If they beat Italy in the next round, you can't. You really, it'd be really tough to look past them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It was a really enthralling game. Courtois, like I said to you before we started, played really well. I think he was the difference between the two teams.
Yeah,
Hazard's winner. Normally, when you score a winner like that, it's sort of curled into the far post, but he sort of hit that shot they hit now where it squiggles in the air, and I think it's just
yeah, it was.
Rui Patricio out. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and so it was a great goal by him. Portugal threw
yeah,
everything they had at Belgium. You could see even like Lukaku in his own defensive box trying to clear the ball at times. That's how
yeah,
desperate they were for the win, Belgium.
yeah.
I'd actually like I. It's funny because I'd said to you that I thought Italy would make the quarterfinals, and that's probably about it.
Hmm.
And it was because
Hmm.
I thought they would play Belgium or Portugal. But now
Yeah,
that those teams are there, I think Italy's got every chance. They didn't
yeah.
they weren't exceptional against Austria, but they did enough. I
Hmm.
think what happened with Italy against Austria is they took out Locatelli and put
Hmm.
Verratti into the midfield, and so it made them a
Yeah,
bit silkier. But they just needed a bit more, that little bit of grit that Locatelli
a
gives
bit of
them, and that
crunch. Yeah, a
drive
bit
and
of
that
crunch.
purpose. So I do think
Yeah.
Locatelli will get a gig again. Verratti actually was taken off in that game, and Locatelli brought on. So if they can get that midfield combination right, they've got a massive chance against Belgium, who have injury concerns with Eden Hazard and Kevin De Bruyne. So both
I
of
was
them
just going to
not
touch
in
on that.
that game, yeah.
I was just going to
But
touch on
Italy,
that real quick.
I said Italy. I don't think they get past the quarters. I think they're a massive chance now.
Well, the last point for Italy here is the two things are Belgium have two big injuries, huge injuries, and the second part is Italy have huge depth that they haven't had in about 10 years, 15 years maybe. You can even argue their 2006 side, they play with a squad of about 15. That was really it. And they had an incredible run with no injuries except for the red card to Rossi, but then he come back. But my point being, they have incredible depth. And you'd fancy Italy to, if they beat Belgium, if either one of them, whoever wins that game, that's a huge hurdle to overcome to go on to win the tournament. But yeah, look, it's going to be a fantastic fixture next week. But we're going to move on to the next game, which on our agenda for the video, Croatia versus Spain. Um, Spain, very very slow start and then exploded. Things seemed to click for them when they won their last game 5-0. Um, but it's Croatia once again. You just feel, is this going to be a case of Germany where huge game, shit performance in the next, or do you think they can kind of push on? Because in my opinion, they do have a very mixed side. It's very transitional with the old guard and the new guard. What's going on with Spain, and do you think they can beat Croatia?
Yeah, it's funny. We had a bit of a debate before about Denmark, for instance. They had a big game to get through, and you thought that they would go up, and I thought they go down. They went up, but then
Yeah,
Germany did the opposite. They went down after their big game
yeah,
against Portugal. So it can be a bit hard to read into that. But Spain definitely looked lethal, and that team has moments. They have moments where they're just clicking something. Like they beat Germany 6-0. Like they
hmm,
have the ability to just pull these performances out where everything clicks and all of that. So Croatia is an interesting opponent for them because both teams like having the ball. Um,
hmm,
you could almost see this one being a very 50-50 game about who has the ball better and who can control it better. Luka Modric looms as a massive. It is almost, to be honest, Modric, Perisic, and 9 other blokes against Spain. It's
hmm,
they're probably the two players who've been doing exceptionally well for
hmm.
Croatia. This Croatia side doesn't have the same feel that other Croatian sides have had. Um,
Yeah,
where Spain, you could argue that they found a gear. Everybody scored except Morata, and it was almost like a Greek tragedy. Like he came off, Torres came on and scored with his first touch. So you have serious questions over as well whether Luis Enrique is he just going to bite the bullet now and just tell Morata you're on the bench, son, and play Torres, who
Yeah,
actually had a pretty good season with City, very unheralded. Um,
yeah,
he might actually, and I know this is a long bow to arch, but if they don't get someone like Harry Kane, if they're going to get Jack Grealish, Man City, maybe they put Torres more in the center and play him in,
mm,
in that role rather than go get Harry Kane if they're going for Grealish instead of Kane because Kane's
yeah.
been priced out. But in regards to the game, I don't think Spain will change too much. I think if you've won 5-0, you're not going to change too many things about the team. But you are right. It's almost as if they've got guys like Busquets, who's been a magnificent player, but is 33, 34. And then they've got guys
Yeah,
like Pedri, who's like 18, who could be anything. And they don't have at the moment, but a year ago they were playing guys like Ansu Fati as well,
yeah.
who was sort of very up and coming at the time. So it does feel for Spain like it's an intergenerational team. But Croatia have that similar sort of vibe as well. Perisic is in his 30s, Modric is in his mid 30s. So it's an interesting matchup in that sense.
Well, the problem with a country like Croatia is that it's very hard to bleed in youth because when you have momentum, it's. I always liken it, and I make United references because that's the best I know. But when United had the 2008 squad, that squad was so good. Only I think Darren Fletcher would have been the only successful academy graduate coming through there. Jared Piqué left, Ryan Shawcross left, um,
Where,
to name a
Where's
few.
Brown was there? Where's Brown, John O'Shea?
Oh
But
yeah, West Brown, John Shea, but no, but they
the
were
stars.
established rotational players. When you have a squad that's so good, it's so hard to bleed you thin. I mean, in addition to Modric and Perisic, you can put Kovacic in there as well. Very good player, very much like a Verratti, hard work in the middle. But it's very hard to put in youth. So when you get a downfall, like this will be Croatia's last of this peak. The fall after this is going to be big. So I think a lot of these players know this is the last kind of good wave of um, of football they can play for a while internationally at least. Um, it's as far as that Spanish midfield is concerned against a Croatian midfield or against the Croatian front three. It's not. It's Busquets is not a Cruz or he's not a Modric man. He's not as he's
He's
always been slow.
more of a
He's always
Fernandinho,
been
Fabinho type player, isn't he?
Yeah, and that does translate to international football, but I don't think it translates to a midfield with Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic. He's going to find that. I think it's going to be a tough ask for the three of them. Koke from Atletico Madrid can put a bit of grit into their midfield, but I think it'll be a tough battle. I don't think Spain are going to lose this game, but I think it's going to be a very very tough game.
That Koke is the guy they will send to Modric. That battle will be
Yeah,
very important in that game.
United
He's a
United have
perfect
gone
place
in
to
for
get
him.
Modric on and will have experience from La Liga.
Him and Saul, United for years have been linked for them because they're an upgrade on Fred and McTominay. Big upgrade because the intensity, the intelligence. Let me ask you then. You're speaking about Morata. No more chances.
He shouldn't have more chances. No, the fact that he's missed a penalty, isn't he, in that game? He's missed a couple of other chances. He got taken off, and the guy came on score with his first touch. You're at a stage in the tournament where you've gone past trying to give players a goal in the group stage, and you
Yeah,
have more latitude in these Euros than other tournaments because that third place team can go through. But this is knockout. You pick your best team
yeah,
in knockout games.
yeah,
And Morata's probably got a better pedigree than Torres, but Torres is in better form, and you got to go with the guy in form.
yeah. So let's go into the game, man. How do you think? I think personally, it's hard to disagree with what you're saying before. It's going to be game possession. It's going to be two sides that like to have the ball, don't want to be without it. So it's hard to look past kind of a huge midfield battle. There's going to be very few chances for those up front. I mean, I'm looking at the six of them up front, three on each side. None of them really like running with the ball too much. I always like it kind of in behind. How do you think the game's going to go, man? And I want to score. I want kind of a star player picked up.
Yeah, I think that when you have these sort of midfield threes, you often play sort of like United with the two sort of defensive players with an attacking one, or you
Yeah,
play like City with the defensive player and those freer attackers.
yeah,
Both teams play that defensive guy with the freer attacking guy. So Busquets and Brozovic from Inter Milan will be those defensive players with the other two sort of in and around each other. Um,
hmm
that means that in a way, they don't quite cancel each other out. And so
Hmm.
those Busquets and Brozovic players will get a lot of the ball. Modric will drop
Hmm.
deep to get the ball as well. I think that battle, the Koke, Koke's the guy I've got my attention on. They won't send Pedri to Modric. They'll send Koke because he's a fighter.
No,
Um,
they won't send Pedri. No,
Pedri wants the ball. He's not going to go run around
no.
and man
He,
mark.
he is he is an kind of an Iniesta air. I think they're
Yeah.
kind of dubbing him that. Yeah. So score?
I'm going to go 1-0 to Spain. I don't think it's going to be a lot of goals. I think it's going to be a lot of
Okay.
cat and mouse.
Yeah.
And more likely than not, like there might be one sort of beautiful pass in behind. But Spain, it's funny with Spain because you think the type of team that they have, it'd be a bit like watching Barcelona, where you've got sort of the other teams camped on the box and they're trying to ping passes around. But Spain do tend to
Hmm.
try and cut in behind and get to the byline and cut back, a bit like
Hmm.
City do. Um,
Hmm.
where they get to the byline and create all those options.
Hmm.
Apart from the Slovakia games, it's not been too successful. But we'll see how it goes. I do think the goal will come from something like that, where it'll be a sort of through ball and cut back from the byline type thing. Maybe an own
Yeah.
goal, perhaps to win it. But I don't.
Well,
Apart from Perisic, I don't think Croatia really have a punch up front, and I do think that
mhm.
that Spain have the weapons to take Perisic out of the game. He's difficult to play against because he's tall and lanky for a winger.
Mm.
He's not
Yeah.
he's not your
Very
typical
very
like
fast fast
he's not
volley.
like a typical winger would be someone like Frank Ribery, who's sort of short,
Yeah.
moves well laterally, whereas Perisic
Yeah.
is very tall and lanky. When he scored
Yeah.
against England in the World Cup semi-final, he scored with his head. He outjumped Kyle Walker. You know, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like that's the type of player he is. So he's a hard matchup, but I think Spain got the weapons to take him out. Apart from that, I don't see them being able to score a goal.
Yeah. And the next stage will only get tougher, as you can imagine, in the quarterfinals. The winner of this place, France, Switzerland, you're going to put your money on France. And what I'm
This half
liking
of the
about these,
draw. This half of the if assuming France and Spain win, you got Spain and France, and you got Belgium and Italy. That's a beefed up half of the draw. That's beef,
yeah,
man. That's proper game.
and but what I like about these Euros is you're getting these stories, because it's kind of like boxing, MMA. Stories make a lot of the marketing, a lot of the romance of the game. The game isn't necessarily the best games. You're gonna have. I can guarantee you, England Germany tomorrow is gonna be boring as fuck. But it's about the story, and you might have a Croatia France replay in the next round. You could have a England Sweden. You're thinking about Zlatan's goal, so it's nice to see these kind of permutations creating these stories for the next
Well,
rounds of the tournament.
it's interesting because in 2018, even the 2014 World Cup, the group stage was quite exciting, and we all thought, "Oh, the knockouts are here. It's going to be even better." And it didn't. It
Yeah,
got a bit tepid, and so
yeah,
I'm a little worried. Apart from the Denmark game, there's been a lot of the games have been quite sort of nervy, edgy, jumpy, rather than sort of all-time classics. Um,
yeah,
so you hope in amongst that there are games that stand out. The Denmark game, because of the way that they got those goals late, and obviously that story that you're talking about is probably the most interesting in terms of Denmark's story. Um,
yeah.
you hope that there's more exciting games. I think I just don't see this particular game being too exciting, but it'll be a very interesting game to watch.
Perfect. Is there any closing thoughts there, Sean?
No, no. Like I said, I think that side of the draw, assuming Spain
Hmm.
and France go through, that's a beefy part of the draw there. Um, Potential
Yeah,
winner coming from that half, but we'll see how it goes.
perfect. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching the 5 Hour Pass podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Next video will be England versus Germany, so don't forget to catch that. Sham, pleasure as always. We are the 5 Hour Pass. My name is Suddy. This is Sham. Keep football simple, and as always,
Keep passing, guys. Cheers.
I'm on fire.